It's time to pick a side. The border war is on the air with BG and TanMan. All right, welcome into the border war for May the 9th. This is BG. I am here with TanMan. We want to thank listeners last week from Emeryville, California, Ann Arbor, Michigan, and Dallas, Texas.
You notice there was no Washington, D.C.
There was Ashburn, Virginia.
They didn't make the cut. They didn't make the cut. Dallas, Texas is tuning in. Made the cut.
Killer of presidents. All right, and you can follow me on Twitter at
U.S. government's killer of presidents.
Okay, that's another podcast, man. That's our other idea. If this one doesn't start doing better, that's our other idea. But while we're still doing this, if anybody's out there, we are at the Border War on Twitter. I'm at BG_Border War, and TanMan is at TanMan3264. You can also email us at Carolina Border War. That's at gmail.com. Like and download us through the Spreaker app. We can also be found on YouTube. And be sure to like and share the Border War on Facebook. All right, TanMan. So the NBA playoffs are moving right along. The second round not turning into much other than just a bloodletting.
Yeah, they moved along for a while. I think that things are getting ready to come to a screeching halt. I mean, they're getting ready to get 4 or 5 straight days with no basketball here soon.
It looks like, though, that we're going to get series that will do well in the ratings. They're the big teams out there. It's like I told you earlier this week, and I kind of slipped up and I said, well, I mean, it's the 1 and 2 seeds on both sides. And you're like, no, it's not. And I'm like, oh, you're right. The Raptors were the 1 seed. But does it really feel like the Raptors were the 1 seed?
Yeah.
I mean, they got
that was embarrassing.
Shellacked.
That's embarrassing, man.
It's not that.
To the point that
weren't close.
The point that your best player basically quits on you halfway through the third quarter, intentionally clobbers a guy just so he can get kicked out of the game and go home.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I heard the stat that he hasn't made a 3 against the Cavaliers in a playoff game like ever.
And it's ever. It's not a small sample size either.
No, they've lost 10 straight playoff
games.
The rest of the way, you've got one tonight, the Sixers and the Celtics. That one feels over. I know Philadelphia got the win in Game 4, but watching the end of Game 3, you saw a lot of youth, a lot of inexperience start rearing its ugly head at the end of that one. 3 costly turnovers. Some miscommunication on the last turnover there where Simmons didn't think he was getting the ball back. But they'll go Game 5 tonight in Boston. I've got a feeling that one ends. On the west side, you get exactly what
everybody thought. And it's what we wanted.
It's what we wanted. It's what everybody thought was coming. You get Warriors, Rockets,
and
BG.
This is the first series since the first round where I'm like, making notes on my phone what time the game starts so I make sure I don't miss it.
Yeah.
Because that hasn't happened in this round. I've caught some, I've missed some, and the ones I missed haven't broken my heart.
Well, look, we got what we all expected on the west side. On the east side, I think we're going to wind up with kind of what we all expected. But let me just tip my cap to Utah. I mean, those guys, Utah and New Orleans really, but Utah, they really hung in there a lot more than I was expecting.
Well, I mean, I think they did a lot more in the first round than I was expecting. I didn't expect them to come out of the first round. I mean, the Jazz ended up. I mean, they earned their 3 seed. I mean, they looked like a 3 seed team. In today's NBA, I mean, I wish I felt like they had something to build off of. I mean, we're going to talk about this here in a minute. I'd say the Jazz are a very good example of a team that is pressed up against the proverbial glass ceiling. It's an analogy I probably use too much. The idea being that you can see the other side, but you can't get to it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just real quick, going back into the East, you and I were both coming off of the first round thing, and I even said in 3 years, the 76ers, this is going to be the team, not the Boston Celtics. No matter what LeBron does, even if LeBron stays in Cleveland, He's on the back half of not the back half of his career. He's on the back quarter of his career, probably. And I said, I thought the 76ers were going to. Yes.
Have you seen him lately?
I'm just saying. He looks amazing.
He looks amazing. Unbelievable. He looks as good as he's ever looked in his whole career.
In the next 4 years, he's going to take a downturn. And probably a significant one in the next 4 seasons. That's a lot of basketball.
It is.
I mean, he could win 4 more titles. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's going to get blasted out of the finals.
Not in Cleveland, he's not winning 4 more
titles. Right, that's what I'm saying. But anyway, you're detracting from my point.
No.
Good comeback. The 76ers, were we too quick to jump on that bandwagon and say, and by we, I mean me and you, and really more me than you, was I too quick to crown them as the future kings of the East? What's your take on that?
Future kings of the East? No. I think there's still a really good possibility that they're going to be the future kings of the East. But
I absolutely agree with you.
As far as right now, you weren't the only one. A lot of I call them talking heads on ESPN, who, let's face it, don't know any more about what's going to happen. They can't make any predictions any better than we can. A lot of those guys and gals on there, they all picked Philadelphia to win this series. They looked at it and says, okay, no Kyrie Irving, no Gordon Hayward.
Well, I went so far as to say, I think 4 weeks ago, that, well, I forgot exactly the question you asked me. It was something about LeBron, and it was a thumbs up or thumbs down, and I said, well, a thumbs down because he's not going to make it to the finals because the 76ers are going to take him out. I was that confident.
Well, and that's a lot of the air quote experts were the same way. They jumped on it, man. They jumped on Philadelphia, maybe overachieving a little bit this year. You finally get to see some Joel Embiid play a full season. Ben Simmons is playing. It's a shiny new toy. They had a good series with Miami in the first round, but I mean, what a difference a week makes. Because a week ago, we're talking, man, the Cavs are in trouble. They look terrible. LeBron can't get any help. And then, man, they just land haymaker after haymaker after haymaker against the helpless Raptors.
Yes.
So that to me, that's the difference.
And I agree with you as far as the future. If you look at the age of the 76ers and you look at 2 primary players in the East, right? You've got LeBron and you've got Kyrie, and neither one of them are spring chickens. Kyrie, obviously, a lot younger, but not healthy. I think the 76ers have a lot more staying power than the Celtics do over the next
and let me just say this
seasons,
real quick. This story going around about Philadelphia being a possible landing spot for LeBron, don't do that. Philadelphia should stay away, and this sounds counterintuitive what I say. They should stay away from LeBron because their future is Ben Simmons. It's Joel Embiid. If you put LeBron on that team,
then it becomes LeBron's team.
It's LeBron's team. Simmons takes a back seat.
And you can end up losing one of those guys because they can't deal with him.
Yeah, Simmons has got to develop that jump shot, but if LeBron's there, he's going to have the ball.
Oh, sure.
And LeBron is going to. How does LeBron? Now they build LeBron teams. They surround him with shooters. Because all of a sudden, Ben Simmons is going to become a fantastic. I think that would be a weird fit. Stay away from Philadelphia. If he wants a ready-made championship, go to Houston. If they can work that out. But now, let's debunk the LeBron Philadelphia story now.
No, I agree with you because Simmons is a pure point guard. He's not a scoring point guard. He needs to be distributing the ball, continue to work on that. And like you said, 2/3 of the time, it doesn't matter what position you can list LeBron at small forward if you want, but he ends up being the point guard.
Yeah, he didn't have a position.
No, he really doesn't.
He's just there. He's a player.
All right, so I mentioned the glass ceiling analogy a few minutes ago, and we're going to morph this sort of into a Hornets discussion. The playoffs themselves, there's not a lot to talk about right now until the next round starts. You feel like we're sort of just waiting on that. But as for everybody else, so we've had this discussion in the past, particularly as it regards the Hornets, but teams that are, I don't know, what's the right word? Competitive, right? maybe like the Pacers, maybe a little worse than the Pacers. Who's a good example of this?
Well, I think the easiest example to look at is the team that just got sent home.
Okay, the Raptors.
It's the Toronto Raptors.
Okay, so
you look up glass
Raptors.
ceiling in the dictionary, and a picture of DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry are sitting right there.
You just earned the best record in the East. You had a 1 seed. You have a great season, and it means nothing. You have lost 10 straight games in the playoffs against the same team, which means, TanMan, that even the games in the regular season where you beat them didn't count. You weren't even playing them.
It's not even the same team. I mean, this is a completely different team. You lost 10 straight playoff games to one guy.
Right.
One guy,
and so the question becomes then, if you are the general manager or the owner of the Toronto Raptors or any other team, I think the Portland Trail Blazers are another really good example.
Good one.
Okay, do you content yourself to press up against that glass, stare through it at LeBron and KD and those guys and watch them win titles while you continue to be very competitive in the regular season, even beating those teams when it doesn't really count, and fill up your arena and win, 65 games a season and then lose in the playoffs consistently? Or do you tear it all down, go get draft picks, trade for young talent, rip it up and roll the dice and try to win the ring? Which one do you do?
The two scenarios you just painted, the two teams you just mentioned, Portland and Toronto, they're kind of in the same boat. They're both not really in the cool kids club. They're good enough to be in the playoffs,
sure,
but they're not really going to threaten anybody. And they're both outposts in the NBA. They're not destination places.
Right.
Portland, it's hard to see giving up Lillard and McCollum, but Toronto, on the other hand, I wait this out. I wait to see what LeBron decides to do. If he stays East, I'm blowing this thing up, man. I think Lowry's on the other. He might be 30. He might be on the other side of 30.
Yeah, I think he's around 30, 31 years old. Yep.
DeRozan, I think, is 29. I mean, these aren't 23 or 24-year-old guys. These are guys who have got. They've got,
and they've shown you what they've got. They're not beating LeBron.
They're not going to. I don't care what happens. They're just, at this point, you have to wonder if it's more of a mental thing than a game thing, because both these guys can play.
What do you think?
They won 59 games.
Why do you play these games, man?
Well, the idea is to play to win the game, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure what Toronto's doing. If I'm Toronto, LeBron says, I'm staying in Cleveland, or I'm going to Philly or New York. Man, I am blowing this thing up.
Let's just be honest about this. I mean, and this is all three of the major sports. There's definitely NFL teams, and there are definitely Major League Baseball teams that are guilty of this. There are teams out there that are not competing to win titles. That isn't why they exist. That isn't what their owners want.
I think Toronto, I said the other week, Toronto's a great organization. They've got tremendous fan support. Those fans,
that's a very tough place to go play basketball.
They pack like the outside of the streets of the arena when they're on the road, and they watch the game, the playoff games outside on the screens. I mean, they are loyal.
They have a great court design too
to that team. But you lose 10 straight games to the one guy and don't even really look competitive in.
No, I mean
most of them.
That series was.
I mean, it was over after game one.
It was probably over before game one. We just didn't know it yet.
Yeah, you're probably right. No, I tell you, when you're up against that glass ceiling,
so your answer is sort of that's a situational thing. Then
I think more often than not, if you're up against that glass ceiling like they are in the NBA, where it's so superstar and so the number of teams that are really able to win a title is so few every year.
I like how you did number there, because a lot of people will go with amount, and you did it correctly. I want to give you props for that.
I usually do.
Usually do. So what you're really saying then, if I can kind of paraphrase your confusing diatribe there, is that the glass ceiling in the West is very different from the glass ceiling in the East.
I would, if I'm Toronto and LeBron stays, I'm tearing it down.
Whereas in the West, I don't know. I mean, tearing it down, you're still probably going to lose.
But I don't think it's a mental thing with a team like Portland like it is with Toronto. I think it's in the whole Lowry, DeRozan. I think it's all in their head. They just can't get past it.
All right, so speaking of teams that aren't quite even to the glass ceiling yet, Charlotte Hornets
hired a new coach, man.
Finally hired a new coach. How do you say this guy's name?
Borrego. James
Two
Borrego.
R's. Borrego. Assistant under Greg Popovich on 2 different staffs. Came from San Antonio. My understanding is that he's been the second place finisher, I think, in Memphis, a couple of other places.
I think
New Mexico State
offered
him. And actually, I was gonna say that actually excited me. That this is a guy to me who's an NBA guy, right? He had a college offer, and let's be honest, not a ton of pressure to win Final Fours at New Mexico State. Good salary. Probably going to stay there 15, 20 years if you want to. No. I want to be an NBA head coach because an NBA head coach is a job you need to want. And it's not going to be a pleasant job if you don't want it.
No.
It's a grind.
No.
And so I'll be honest, man. Everything I read, I feel like the Hornets got a good guy here. I like his age. I like his look. I did not get to see the press conference. I like to watch the press conference, see the kind of attitude of the guy. Mm-hmm. But we've talked about this for a long time. We still aren't 100% sure what this means. I mean, we knew they were going to get rid of Clifford when they got rid of their GM and hired Kupchak. You're not going to do half and not the other half. I'm still curious what this means for Kemba Walker. I'm still curious what this means for our previous discussion. Do the Hornets tear it down? Or do they kind of keep limping along? Anyway, I'm jumping the gun. I want to get your thoughts on this hire first.
I love the hire. When I first heard it yesterday, I thought I'll admit I didn't really know who he was.
The other main candidate I think was a Celtics associate.
Jim Larinaga's son. When I heard Borrego got the job, like I said, I'll admit I didn't really know who he was. Like you, I started digging into his background a little bit. Where has he been? Where has he kind of come from?
And the first thing you find out is that Greg Popovich is impressed by him.
And that tells me
that's a lot.
That tells me all I need. I mean, it's kind of like the Dean Smith coaching tree. Popovich has sent guys. He spent some time in New Orleans with Monty Williams. Moved on to Orlando with Jacques Vaughn, both under Popovich. He got the interim job when Vaughn got fired in Orlando a few years ago. And instead of staying on that staff, he goes back to San Antonio for a few more years with Pop. The biggest thing that they say that they want from him is player development. You look, Malik Monk, Dwayne Bacon, both guys who let's be honest, these are NBA guys,
and that's an underrated thing in the NBA. It's not a thing you hear a lot in the NBA, but if you think about it, it's common sense.
Yeah, but Monk and Bacon both had stretches where they played really good basketball with the big team, just didn't get enough of an opportunity. Going back to Borrego, you look at the track record, specifically in San Antonio, and what they've done. They haven't picked higher than 20 in the last 20 NBA drafts, and some names that they picked at those spots. You get Ginobili at 57, Tony Parker at 28, Tiago Splitter at 28. George Hill at 26, and DeJounte Murray at 29. So he's gotten the experience with drafting guys later in the draft, late the first round, into the second round, and maximizing that talent. So that's going to be his main job in Charlotte.
The Spurs have built a system. They, much like the Patriots, it feels like whoever comes and goes in San Antonio, that they all end up being San Antonio guys.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if he was instrumental in a lot of those picks, if he can duplicate that in Charlotte, because that's what it's going to take in Charlotte. They're not going to draw superstars. This is not a chicken and egg scenario. No. The wins have to come first.
Well,
you've got to go find guys, and like you said, you have to develop the guys you've already got.
Yeah, well, I like the hire. I like the fact that he's a young guy. The only thing that concerns me is he's a young guy with an old team, a team coming off of a couple years where they haven't made the playoffs. Steve Clifford mentioned it on his way out where he just didn't feel like there was the fire or the fight in the locker room. So how does this young guy, this first-time head coach, how do these older veteran guys kind of, how do they respond to him?
It's the reason that I made the argument a month or so ago that this was not an up-and-coming job right now. Not that it can't be, but it's because, to me, the problems of this franchise have to be solved by Jordan and the front office and Kupchak. They can't be solved by the new coach.
No.
They've got to have these contracts have to be done away with. Nick Batum has to go. You've got to, and frankly, I think Kemba Walker has to go.
Well, the NBA draft lottery, I think, is next Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, next Tuesday or Wednesday. And so I think after that happens, then you can start getting some clarity and getting a picture of where they're going to go. Whether they're going to package that pick and move Walker, or package it and move Batum, or what? How are they going to get around some of that stuff?
Well,
get through the lottery, see where they land, and go.
You think about it in terms of a team like the Braves in baseball. The Braves 4 seasons ago were not competitive. Their minor league system was depleted, and sort of like the 76ers were 6 years ago. And you kept hearing, "Look, we're building this back up. We're building this back up." For Charlotte to become a winner again, you're going to have to endure some ugly basketball.
I'm afraid that's coming.
Yeah, it's coming.
I'm afraid it's coming.
It's coming.
All right, moving it along. BG, an article came out last
Des Bryant
week.
has been traded to a local high school. Yeah, he is going to be the assistant water boy.
Yeah, last week, real quick on this one, the article comes out where Adam Schefter's quoted basically saying that there are more teams that would not take Des Bryant for any amount of money than there were teams willing to sign him. BG, what in the world is going on?
I think the only way to read that is whatever locker room issues we were
told didn't exist,
hinting that we thought must exist, they must be pretty severe. I mean, right? I mean, this guy must have rubbed an awful lot of people the wrong way outside of the Cowboy organization.
It just blows my mind.
Mine too.
No, really. Okay, if you want to say that, okay, I've got a problem. He doesn't get separation from cornerbacks, or he doesn't have blazing.
That's not what this is about.
He's never had blazing speed. I think all that's a cop out. I really think
I don't think any of this is football.
No, I know. I don't either, because on the field, he's 29 years old, 28 years old, something like that. I mean, he should be smack dab in the middle of his prime.
Sure.
Athletically. I just don't understand the fact that you would say that there are more teams that would not touch him for anything than there are teams that would actually sign him.
And again, it's one guy's quote. But
he ain't been signed. No,
it's gone stone cold, man. This is the only story about him.
Well, do you think that some of it has to do with when he was released? I mean, it
certainly didn't do him any favors.
He got released right before the draft, right as teams were getting ready to fill their wide receiver needs.
But again,
with younger,
why
cheaper,
did he get released then? I mean, I think something happened. I think things had been going on, but I don't think Jerry Jones and the Cowboys organization wanted to screw Dez over. I think something happened that left them, in their eyes, no choice, because I don't think they would have chosen to do it this way. That's not how they're known. Jerry Jones is a player's owner.
And he loves
Why would you leave this guy hanging out to dry like that if you could have released him right after the Super Bowl or in March? I mean, even in March. I mean, no, this was, like you said, 0 hour.
It was right before the draft.
And guys said, people had their wide receivers rated. The free agency had come and gone.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me, I'm not being paranoid here.
What do you think about whenever he was released, his insistence at NFC East? I want to go to the NFC East. And then when he turns down the deal from Baltimore that I think was being reported at like 3 years, 21, 22 million total.
Yeah.
When he turns that deal down, I mean, he's not getting. What was he scheduled to make in Dallas? 16.
Right.
That's not there. That number's not on the table.
I think that's obvious.
So when he turns down that deal from Baltimore, multiple years, good money, did that scare other teams around the league off from him? You go, well, maybe this guy's head is not really in football as much as it is sticking it to Jerry and the Cowboys.
I think that's definitely a take. I don't know how affected seasoned GMs are. I mean, I still think there are probably guys who know how to lowball a guy like Dez and get him on your team for next to nothing if he's going to play it this way, but we're not hearing that stuff. Like you said, if the rumor is that people are talking, I'm not giving him $20. I'm not letting – he could pay me and he's not on my team. I don't want this guy. I don't want Dez Bryant. That has nothing to do with football.
I think some of that is, what we've heard. Because nobody really knows. Nobody really knows unless you were in the Cowboys locker room. And stories get told. They get embellished.
Can we be fair, though? That if something actually juicy, serious, dangerous
I think it would have gotten out.
If there's any locker room in the NFL, it would have leaked from us to Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, it would have gotten out.
I agree. I don't know what this is. But it doesn't. Something doesn't add up.
I think Dez is going to sign somewhere. I said it from the beginning. I think it's going to be one of these 1 year, prove it type of deals. I still think the door is open to an NFC East team. I wouldn't completely close that like some folks are saying. But again, like I said, I think it's going to be one of these 1 year deals where he has to, for whatever reason, he's going to have to prove that he's still got gas in the tank, which to me is absurd. But I just still have a feeling he's going to wind up in the NFC East. Somehow, some way, he's going to wind up torching the Cowboys at some point this year.
It's not going to be the Eagles. And if I knew that was true, I think the Redskins are the most likely.
I still think it's you guys. I don't think it'll be Dallas. I don't think it'll be New York with Odell Beckham. And that's just too much in one locker room. The Eagles seem to be their own, kind of their own machine right now.
They seem to have convinced themselves they're going to win more Super Bowls just by showing up. I don't think that's going to happen.
But they still have Nick Foles, man.
Good point.
They still have Nick Foles,
How can anybody counteract
We can't possibly trade Nick Foles.
We've seen Nick Foles' best football. I'm going to write that down in the promise book. Everybody just remember I said that.
The Book of Promise, are we allowed to say that?
I don't think so. That's somebody else's idea. We don't do that kind of thing. We don't do that kind of thing.
That's right. I forgot about that. Well, BG, we'll hit some college baseball. Your world. We'll take a look at the ACC standings. The Clemson Tigers right now, first place in the Atlantic Division. They have won 10 of 11. They took 2 of 3 from Florida State. They sit at 36-12, 19-8 in the ACC. My Tar Heels, 9 in a row. We get second place in the Coastal Division. We're going to beat up the Blue Devils this weekend. We're 33-13, 18-6. But the comeback story of the last few weeks, your Gamecocks have jumped all the way up to third in the East now, 13-11. They've gone 8 of 9 since they've lost to PC. BG, a couple weeks ago, I was ready to write you guys off for dead.
And I tried to warn you.
You were done. You were through. Losing to PC was the death knell. Baseball America's tournament projections are out today. Has you guys not only in the tournament,
2 seed in a lot of places.
Has you guys as a 2 seed. Baseball America has you going to Clemson. Clemson, the 4th overall seed. The Tar Heels, the 3rd. BG, what say you? What is going on down there?
I think that, you remember when we lost to PC, I told you that I was beginning to be afraid that Holbrook's transferred lack of confidence to this team.
They play tonight, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
His inability to get anything out of this talent had affected this team in a sort of permanent way as long as those players were still on the team. And honestly, instead of being the death knell, as you put it, I think that PC loss was more of a wake-up call. And I think what happened is that this team sort of said, wait a minute, we're better than this.
Stop it.
Stop. Exactly. That it took just hitting rock bottom. And with a little bit of success, I think that confidence has come back. And I've watched a lot of these games on television here lately, and this team is starting to, and don't get me wrong, I mean, this team's not going to Omaha. This team's likely going to lose to Clemson in the Clemson is a loaded baseball team. They are loaded. But this team is starting to win games the way this team used to win games. Mm-hmm. They're starting to get down and it not affect them, come back. I'm starting to see other teams make unforced errors because the Gamecocks just don't blink. This is a mentally tougher baseball team than it was. I think Kingston has given them some confidence. I mean, I think his sort of even-keeled approach has worked out well this season. And they're playing good baseball. This was always a better team than their record was. And I knew that. If you looked at the recruiting rankings, everybody knew that. But I think it literally took, if you think about it, if you have a really bad experience that goes on for 2 or 3 years, and you do all these cosmetic changes, yes, we've got a new coach, and you show up and you start losing. Mm. Well, it's really easy to think, man, it's not the coach, it's us. We're not that good. And it just took, I think, that really, really awful loss. I think that did something.
Who you guys? Who's your last 2 conference series? I know you got USC,
got Texas A&M.
They finish up, right?
That's yeah, and
I think the other one's Missouri.
That sounds right. I think it is Missouri, and then Texas A&M. And to be honest, I'm not sure.
I think that's
Texas A&M's on the road, I believe.
I think that's it to end the season. So what are you? 28-19, 13-11. So you're probably going to finish. I wouldn't imagine you'd finish any worse than 16-14
at worst. The worst case scenario is you add 5 more wins to the season. That would be a slightly disappointing total.
Yeah.
6-7 wins is possible. More.
Yeah. But you got to feel good though, because like I said, a couple weeks ago, you couldn't hardly find a tournament projection that had you guys anywhere in it, and you've gone from that to being a 2 seed now.
And again, this last weekend, honestly, you say you're glad. You're glad to take 2 out of 3 from the number 3 team in the country. Gamecocks should have swept them, man. They had that game won. Again, it's just one more base hit, and that is the difference. And that's why I think this Clemson team is so dangerous. And you look at the number of close games they've played; they've won them all. They've won all the close games. The games they've lost, they've just kind of had bad days and gotten whooped. That happens. It's baseball. South Carolina is still losing some close games, and so they're not there yet. But from beginning of season to the end of season, you like where this puts them in position for next year and recruiting and everything else. And I think South Carolina baseball is going to be back in the discussion again within a year and a half or so.
Well, the Baseball America has got 11 SEC teams in the tournament field as of today. That would be the most ever for one conference. The previous top number was 10, achieved by the SEC in 2014 and the ACC in 2016 for the top 8 seeds from the SEC. So all of a sudden that, I'm not really sure what that is.
We're watching a man bang his head into watermelons repeatedly, and we're asking if this is more dangerous than football. I'm going to go with no.
I'm also going to guess that's not America.
That didn't look American to me. In America, we would eat those delicious watermelons.
I've never
with
been in
salt.
I've never been in a situation where I've been asked to headbutt a row of watermelons.
Even a single watermelon, really, if you think about it.
Certainly
not a row.
Such a waste.
I agree with you.
All right, BG. It's time. Thumbs up or thumbs down. We've got a few topics here. I know we talked about one between us the other day, but we'll start off. College scholarships being offered to kids way too early. And I will preface this by saying there was a
8th grade.
Apparently we were, I think she was younger than that. She was 11. We missed it.
Oh, that's right.
She was 11 years old a few months ago, committed to the University of Florida, 11 years old to play softball for the Gators. And reading up on an article about it, one of the coaches, I forget from where, from Western Carolina, basically said the NCAA rules do not apply to these kids, that they were too young for the rules to even apply to them, that they could go and talk and harass them, whatever these kids, all they want to, because they weren't governed. BG, thumbs up or thumbs down on these scholarships being offered to these kids? And I emphasize kids.
Thumbs down, man. It's creepy. It's creepy.
Yeah.
I mean, now, let me preface that by saying I get it. It's an arms race, and when you don't draw, the NCAA should have drawn a line on this and a lot of other issues. It's just what do you call it? It's creep, right? Things creep in a direction.
Little by little.
If you don't think that someone out there is going to build a more ridiculous student football center than Clemson has with their water slide and all that stuff by the end of 3 or 4 years from now, I mean, that's what happens.
I think you're obsessed with the water slide. I think you secretly want South Carolina to have a water slide.
I'm glad we don't have a water slide.
I think you do, because you talk about that a lot.
It's ridiculous, man. That's why. It's ridiculous. And it's a good example of everything that's wrong in college sports. That's
jealousy.
Jealousy
rearing
is not
its
the
ugly
issue.
head. That's not your normal Wednesday shirt, but jealousy is not a good color.
This is my warm weather Wednesday shirt.
I'm going with you. I'm going thumbs down on this. The National Fast Pitch Coaches Association has presented a proposal to limit and basically stop all of that contact.
But you know who I blame for this?
Until September 1st of a prospect's
who are this kid's parents, man?
Well, that's the thing. And apparently,
shut up and get off the phone with my kid.
Apparently, in softball, this is a major problem. You go to these tournaments, and there are college coaches scouting 11 and 12-year-olds on the regular.
Listen, you don't think I deal with this with my fourth grader? Come on.
No, I tell you,
he touched the ball one time last year. He scored.
Well, look,
you don't think people notice that?
I can tell you that no college coach would be welcome to talk to my 11-year-old daughter under any circumstances. Thumbs down on that one. Next up, this week the Players Championship Golf's 5th major. First 2 rounds, you're going to see Tiger and Phil being paired together. Thumbs up or thumbs down on that one? BG, thumbs up. If there's a way to give 2 thumbs up, I'm giving it. Both of these guys are not at the peak of their games anymore, but just for the nostalgia.
They're at the peak of their interest
it.
level, though.
I love it.
Phil Mickelson may be the most enduring golf superstar since the Golden Bear. Am I right? I mean, he has never wavered. He's
always been popular.
He's always been popular.
He was always the anti-Tiger, was this singular focus, and Phil was the fun, lovable guy who never could seem to really beat Tiger.
Right.
Or at least that's the way it was kind of portrayed.
That's the way it was marketed, right. No, I'm with you on this. Thumbs up. I'm more likely to watch if those two guys are teaming up
I think
together.
these guys could be 70 years old, and if you put them together in a charity match at a local municipal golf course someplace, anywhere in America, man, a crowd of people would show up to watch it. Next up, NBA news. Your Gamecocks, Chris Silva, my Tar Heels, Joel Berry, not invited to next week's, I think it's next week, to the NBA Combine, BG. I'll start at thumbs down, man. Thumbs down. You get Chris Silva is basically a jump shot away from being an every night. I mean, he is on the verge of being a regular NBA rotation player. And Joe Barry, you mean to tell me that Joe Barry can't be on an NBA roster?
Well, there's two parts.
He doesn't. These guys don't even warrant. Silva's a big man who can shoot free throws.
Listen, these are two different players, though. Okay, Barry's got more of a history, more of a proven history. Silva's probably got a little bit more of an NBA upside because of his size.
I feel like you're getting ready to take some shots at Joel Barry.
No,
I'm not happy about it.
I'm not going to take any. I don't even care about Joel Barry. What I was going to say is,
I love Joel Barry.
I do not. I'm going to go thumbs up with this. I'm excited about it. Anything that discourages Chris Silva from going to the NBA is right up my alley, man. Come back to Columbia. You need one more year.
Well, I think he would have come back to Columbia anyway. I think he was coming back anyway. This just cements it, though. I mean, if the NBA is telling you, look, there's only 60 draft spots. If 12 of them or 15 of them...
There's only 60 draft spots and only 30 of them matter.
Right, and 15 of them are going to go to international players. You got 45 draft spots for you. And like you said, the guaranteed contracts are only for that first round. I think Silva was always coming back, but you mean to tell me that can't even get these guys in for a workout?
I'm with you on Joel Berry, though. I mean, like, point guard is such a underpopulated group in the NBA.
Joel Berry's not going to be an NBA All-Star, but you mean to tell me that he can't be somebody's third point guard? Get out of here, man.
He's at least as good as Tyler Hansbrough.
Man, we're going to be throwing hands in a minute now. You take shots at Berry and you backed off, but you're taking shots at Hansbrough. We're going to throw some hands in a minute. Yankees and Red Sox, it's being reported these guys are going to London. Was it 2019, 2020? Going to play out in London. Thumbs up or thumbs down, BG? Thumbs down, man. This is America's game, and you're taking the biggest baseball's got an image problem as it is, a marketing problem as it is, and you're taking the biggest, most popular rivalry in the sport, most marketable rivalry in the sport, and you're shipping it across the Atlantic. Someone's doing a terrible job. Whose idea is this?
I think thumbs down too, but I'm going to cite some different reasons. A, I think it makes it look like you're trying to be the NFL. Two, it makes it look like by sending the Red Sox and, well, first of all, like you said, get more. You need to be worried about people watching you in this country.
Right.
Americans aren't watching baseball anymore. And then it makes it look like the Red Sox and the Yankees are the only two teams in Major League Baseball. I get sick of that anyway. If that's the only thing you've got, you have a problem. It just looks
when the
desperate. It looks desperate.
When the NFL does it, they send the Jaguars.
They send everybody.
But they started off by sending the Jaguars. Send them the stuff we don't really want that's not really going to draw over here.
It's a completely different mentality.
You just sent the best thing that you have. You had the ace up your sleeve if you're Major League Baseball.
And the sad thing is, because the Braves have been pretty good so far this year, I've watched more baseball, man. Major League Baseball is still a really good product. It's still really entertaining. They need to focus on getting people back in their camp. Quit worrying about the Brits.
Nah, who cares, man? It's America. Last, top teams avoiding scheduling other top teams in college football. BG, I came across an article on rubbing the rock with an R, rubbingtherock.com.
How does The Rock feel about
luckily,
that?
We're a family show, so I'm going to let that one go. It's a Clemson.
Keep your hands off my jabroni.
It's a Clemson blog spot, but
you mean The Rock, not the wrestler?
No.
I was confused. I was like, he's not going to like that. Don't do that. He's a Miami Hurricane, man. He doesn't even like Clemson guys. I mean, who does?
You'd probably rub The Rock if you could. He's an amazing individual. But no, this is a Clemson blog site, I guess. Sean Spencer goes on and he writes this whole big piece about how...
What a terrible name.
Oh, yeah, it's stupid.
That's pathetic.
But he writes this whole big piece about how Clemson should avoid... Basically saying they should avoid Georgia like the plague to protect their college football playoff interest, BG. What say you?
Thumbs down, man. Play football.
Look, this is the exact thing that pisses me off about college football.
That you love about
college basketball. Basketball, we don't know. They don't avoid anybody. You pick up the phone, you play the games, man. In football, we're dodging this team, we're dodging that team. And let's face it, most of the time, these early season games that get hyped up,
they don't end up being.
They don't want it being. Right. They want it being crap.
Washington Huskies end up being in the Final Four.
Right.
Nobody was talking
Michigan
about
and Florida squaring off. Boom. Both those teams are terrible, man.
Right.
Thumbs down. Clemson, quit dodging, folks. That's it for us this week. We want to thank you for joining us. You can follow us on Twitter at The Border War. If you want to talk to BG, you can get him at BG_Border War. I am at TanMan3264. You can email the show, CarolinaBorderWar@gmail.com. Be sure to like and download us through the Spreaker app. We're on YouTube. We are on Facebook, and want to let you guys know that you can download these episodes and you can listen to them every day of the week, not just live. BG, anything to add to it before we say goodbye to our massive amount of fans?
I'm going to save my breath because I'm going to need it when we win another Super Bowl this year in Washington. We're not going to London, despite what you say.
I'm speechless.
We're not going to London.
The London Tallywhackers.
The Ghost Peppers.
The London Tallywhackers.